Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of Business Advice with me, Sam Boydell. I've been a composer and a sound guy for well over 10 years. Number 1, direct to client fees. So this general subject will be in some way specific to the person because of the way that they may create their source of income. For me personally, I do a lot of things direct to client or direct to agency, and what that means is I do the job and I send them an invoice after. The way that I price that and have done over the years is something called PRS for music. PRS for music. You'll see the little red label sticker on every pub down the country. What PRS is it's a royalties collection society, and every time the pub plays someone's music, they work out a value for that based on the amount of customers they have and so on. They also deal with large venues, festivals, radio, TV, all these sorts of things. In particular, they have, from a film composer, commercials composer sort of area, they have an arm of it called MCPS. Now, MCPS is simply a huge signpost database for all of the library companies, all of the agencies that buy and sell music for what we call synchronization to a film or motion picture or animation or whatever. And within that, they have become, I would say, like a governing body or a trade union in some way for the industry, right? And the reason why I'm saying this is because they have a price guide on it. They have a guide which, to all of their companies that are signed up to this signpost, have to agree to, which is a very clear amount of money. It's the higher end of the value of money. For instance, in my last video, I did write a small caveat of I firmly disagree with companies like Artlist that do not pay their composers well. At the end of the day, if a video editor can go on and find a piece of music for £1 and use it on a major TV commercial and pay you 0.1 of a pound, so 10p, you need thousands upon thousands of people to do that for you just to get enough to buy you a few beers down the pub. I don't see the benefit of that at all. I only see composers cutting their noses off to spite their own faces. Now, what MCPS do is they set the stall out, and there's an underlying, idea that they're there, and the companies that are signposted within that agency, of which there's thousands, pay a fair amount to musicians who've created that music. So a good place to start is understanding that that's the premium amount that a composer can get, away from the celebrity status. So Hans Zimmer, for instance, he'll look at PRS, of course, but he's a celebrity. He's a well-known name. He will be able to add a much higher rate on top of that. But in terms of working musicians, this is a place to go. You then also have to consider the level that you're at. To be part of those library sites, to be part of the community that charges that amount of money, you do have to be good enough to charge that amount of money at the end of the day. So, should you do any work for free? Well, that's a very deep question, which I can't give you the answer for. Did I have to do it? Yes. Did I slowly build up through the curve of my career? the amount that I charge? Of course I do. That's just what people do. Your time is worth more money. You're more popular. All of these things. The kit that you've got is more expensive. You have to pay for that. Many, many additional things will mean that you have to charge more money. And you can't just go from nothing to something. Okay? Now, within PRS and MCPS, of course, some of you will be artists, and this is another avenue that you can earn money. So you'll gain royalties every time something is played. From a commercial composer point of view, if I have a commercial that plays on TV, I will generally get a royalty for that if that TV program is in the UK or the US. Generally outside, there's different collection societies for different countries, but some countries just don't do it. For instance, I had an advert that was played in all the hotels of TUI, and it was also played on their new Dreamliners and various things like that. Well, it turns out you can't collect royalties in the air because that's a dead space. No country owns it, and therefore they don't have to pay it. So that gets incorporated into the fee that I charged. Now, in addition to all of what I'm saying, those are simply the prices that I may start with. They're a starting point. But they are just a license fee. So within it, I think about the time it's going to take me to make something, the amount that I charge per day. With also the license that they want. So do they want it to do a small Instagram advert that's 15 seconds long? Or are we talking about a 20-minute documentary that's going to be on Netflix? As a terrible example, right? But there's different avenues, and you have to kind of understand these things. And you have to set out your stall on this, be very clear, this is what I'm going to charge if you do this. I made a lot more money when I started creating clear frameworks for my clients to work in and offering them various different levels of pricing. In addition to things like, what happens if a client turns around and says, I don't want to just have a 1-year license, I want to buy the piece of music. It's great to be able to have that fee straight away, and whether they accept it or not is up to the situation, but that's something that you have to consider. But yes, where I was going with this was encompassing all of those frameworks, and where we start, these are just starting points, but within the commercial industry, film and all that kind of stuff, producers are going to have a budget, and they are ultimately going to come to you and say their budget. Most producers will probably say, what do you charge? And then sometimes you'll put out an amount and they'll never call you back, right? And you'll be like, well, was it too expensive? Because I can come down. All that kind of stuff goes on. Of course it does. But, once you start to get a good communication with these people, they'll come to you and say, right, I've got £2,500. And this needs to do this, that, and the other, and that, Or I've got 200 quid. What can you do for 200 quid? Great to have a portfolio of music so that you can be like, well, I'm not going to make you a piece of music for 200 quid for that because I may not need the exposure, may not need all these things, right? But you can have a piece of music from the library site. Depends whether you're associated that music with an exclusivity contract with another library site, and so on and so forth. Streaming, Spotify and YouTube and things like that. A lot of you, again, will be artists, and ultimately we want to put music out there, but I'll just tell you now that I've personally don't do that avenue I don't really try, because the amount that you get back from it is very, very poor. But it really depends on what your avenue is. I never wanted to be an artist, so it never made too much sense to me to push that, but I can understand why some of my colleagues and friends and stuff do that. Some of them make a very good living from it, and it gives them the exposure and the ability to say, oh, I've had 1 million hits on that track, so to get what we call a publishing contract. Very into doing this right now. Yeah, you get a publishing contract and then say, it's weight, isn't it? It's like I can, secure that. And then, sorry, just finally on that, I'd look into that, be a business person. Look into, if you're going to go down the Spotify route, you want to be an artist, because you probably got to do it anyway, because your mate's going to want to know what you're up to and listen on that platform. But ultimately, yeah, I think they pay like 0.00 something a stream. So when I ran a music label with some friends, I think it was like 1 million streams for £3,000 for the music label. So it's hardly anything. And then final thing is number 4 would be funding or sponsorship. The commercial avenues that you can. If you're an artist and you gain weight within the universe, your popularity increases. How can you make money? Well, artists themselves will make money through collaborations with brands, clothing, whatever it may be. You may get paid by the likes of a music hardware company to do performances, live performances, and everything else in between. So, the scope of what you can do is huge. And I can only say what I personally do. Like I said, I never wanted to be out there as an artist, never popular or anything like that. I do these videos just purely because I am an educator and I enjoy educating people, believe it or not. And again, that's an avenue that I can earn money from, that works for me personally. But I just wanted to discuss main points with PRS and MCPS as frameworks to get started. Okay. Like always, put your comments below. You can message whenever you want. Bye.